Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is said to have many different twists and turns, as well as surprises in this film by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about this film that a lot of people are really excited about is, of course, exactly how J.J. Abrams is really going to connect it all to the prequels, the originals, Star Wars Rebels, and even reintroducing some elements of the expanded universe, and really transforming it into canon material under Disney and Lucasfilm. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it comes all down to one of the concept art descriptions, this is where things begin to get very exciting and interesting, involving the characters of Rey, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and yes, even Luke Skywalker. Now, specifically, a description of Rey inside of a cave, where it's described that light is entering into the cave in the background, where it appears to be a binary sunset in the distance. It's described that Rey hears the Force Ghost voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, where it's described that Kenobi begins to give her a brief lecture. It said that Kenobi gives a lesson on the dark side of the Force to Rey, where he also goes over a secret about Luke Skywalker, explaining that Luke knows the origins of the dark side during his travels around the galaxy and decided to keep it to himself. Noting that also young Solo seeks the knowledge which explains everything to Rey. Another describes Kenobi's voice explaining to Rey that Luke knows the great power of the beyond and will teach her when the time is right. So I want to go over a couple of parts about all of this. Now, we do know that in episode 9, J.J. Abrams is really going to explore a lot of aspects about the Jedi, the Sith, and the Force itself, and the beyond really is the key to all of this, as well as the origins of the dark side of the Force. Now, in this particular sequence, Rey hears the voice of Kenobi from what's explained, and she actually gets a lesson from Kenobi, revealing a specific secret about Luke. Turns out that Luke actually knows about the origins of the dark side during his travels around the entire galaxy, after the events of the original trilogy, and before the events of the sequels. Now, I'm sure that a lot of this also has to do with him being in the netherworld of the Force and being one with the Force. And one thing that we do know about J.J. Abrams is that he is going to do a lot of crazy things with this movie that's going to make us view both The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens, and just the entire Skywalker saga in a totally different way, which honestly may or may not be a good move by Disney and Lucasfilm. We'll have to wait and see exactly, how it's going to be executed, how it's going to be written and shown on the big screen. So one other aspect that I do want to go over is what's really interesting is that Ben Solo is also after this knowledge. Now, we've been going over the Dark Spire for a very long time now. We do know that the Dark Spire holds the origins of the dark side in Star Wars Episode 9. Now, the Dark Spire is this large castle-like structure on an unknown world in the Outer Rim. And what's really interesting about this is that this world, this Dark Spire location, dates back thousands and thousands of years ago. So to know that Luke Skywalker knows the origins of the dark side of the Force from his travels around the galaxy, as said by Kenobi to Rey in a lesson, it really does seem like it's going to match everything up with what we heard lightly in The Force Awakens, where Kenobi says, "Rey, these are your first steps." We do know that a lot of those burning questions in The Force Awakens will be answered in Episode 9. So that's the biggest question of all, right? Why was Kenobi reaching out to Rey in The Force Awakens? It seems as though that J.J. Abrams is going to have Rey talking with the Force Ghost voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi in certain locations in this movie, in certain sequences, that fills her in on certain knowledgeable pieces about the dark side, the light, and the entire galaxy as a whole. So one other thing that I do want to actually discuss is that we also know that Luke Skywalker is going to be quite prominent in this movie in a very unique way by JJ. Now, this most likely, like I have said before in the past, has all to do with a mixture of flashback sequences and Luke in the form of a Force Ghost. Will he actually come back to life permanently? I doubt that. However, coming back to life temporarily is a big possibility thrown on the table here, because we do know that one of the sequences, Luke Skywalker actually transitions from a Force Ghost with a blue hue into physical form from what was done on set not too long ago over in January of 2019. So, like I said guys, Kenobi is by far one of my favorite characters, as well as Luke Skywalker, and to know that JJ really is tapping into a lot of the Jedi lore, and everything to do with the Force, and changing how we view the Force, really is going to be quite the risk by Disney and Lucasfilm, JJ and crew, as well as Chris Terrio, I believe, because, well, if you look at fans right now, there is a lot of unexplained pieces about the Force that we currently just know nothing about that is going to be explained in this movie. So that's one thing that I think is going to be a very big obstacle for Disney and Lucasfilm to get through in order to get that down correctly. Anyways guys, drop a comment below, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No, I'm not the one. From night to moon, we hear them moans again.